أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأفضل الصلاة وأزكى التسليم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعن دائم على أعدائهم أجمعين من لدن آدم إلى قيام يوم الدين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون والحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا نحمده ونشكره ونستهديه ونستغفره ونستعيذ به من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل الله فلا هادي له. Brothers and sisters, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us what's best in this dunya and the highest of statuses in the day of judgment. إنه سميع مجيب. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I advise myself and I advise you to be pious and to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to seek His satisfaction and to avoid His punishment and anger. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the ability to do that. It is unfortunate during this lockdown, during the pandemic, not to be able to see our brothers in faith and to welcome our sisters in faith to the center and to be able to hold the congregation, the Salaat-ul-Juma. And only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the reward that comes out of looking at the faces of the mu'mineen and being able to give them a smile. It is hard, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us through this lockdown. And inshallah, until this lockdown will end, we will record the lectures in order for our brothers and sisters to listen to after Salaat-ul-Asr, so we can have rewards on Friday. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and protect you and protect all the Shia around the world from this pandemic. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Allahu waliyyu alladhina amanu yukhrijuhum min al-dhulumati ila al-nur والذين كفروا أولياءهم الطاغوت يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ally of the faithful ones, of the believers. He extracts them from the darknesses into the light, and those who disbelieve, their ally is Taghut. They extract them from the light to the darknesses. In this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we notice, speaks about the darkness in plural. He says darknesses. And when He speaks about the light, not only in this verse, but in all of the verses in the Quran, when He speaks about the light, He speaks about it as a singular. He says one light, because there's one example of light, and there's a lot of examples of darknesses. There's one path that's light, that's obvious, that takes us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, while the things that are fighting against the mu'min in order to distract him from the light are a lot. What is the meaning of wali? What is the meaning of wilaya? Wilaya, when it comes to language, apart from the context, it means closeness. And closeness to a point that no one can separate this closeness. No one can stop this closeness. That's why when you say about the leader or the person who raises his students or his children, you say wali. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He says wali here, there is a kind of closeness between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the believers. So wilaya, which means closeness. For example, if you put something about something else, or a person goes closer to someone else, you say waliyahu. He became closer to him. And as a result, when I'm close to something, when I'm close to this table, when I'm close to this couch, for example, because I'm close to it, I came closer to it. As a result, it is close to me. Why a person seeks closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't need the abd. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not needy. The abd is the needy one. Allah says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhan nas, antum al-fuqara ila Allah. You are the needy ones. You need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why do I need to be closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to accept the divine wilaya? Why do I need to be under the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? In order to remove the feeling of being, the feeling of humiliation or indignity in the self. This indignity in myself, I feel it, and a sinful person feel it because of the sin. If we notice, if a man meets another man who's his age, or a young boy or a young girl who are not religious, who are sinful, who are indulged in sin, they become shy when they stand up or meet with someone who is religious. They either run away from them or attack them or try to belittle them in front of the people or try to mock them because of their religion. And sometimes the youth are shy in order to attend to the center because they will say that people will look at me differently because I'm a person who is indulged in sins. I always commit sins. So whether we like it or not, when we commit a sin, we have that feeling of indignity and being shy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the people, because we did a mistake that we have the ability in order to fight it, and yet we couldn't fight it. So in order to get rid of this dignity, we seek closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this kind of closeness depends on getting rid of humiliation and indignity. While the closeness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the worshipper is not from indignity, walayadu billah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants to be close to us because He wants to raise the worshippers. He wants to teach the worshippers. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ وَلِيٌّ مِنَ الذُّلِّ. So the only exit and escape from the indignity is through seeking closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the divine wilaya. This wilaya between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His worshipper, it's not like the physical examples that I mentioned. When I'm close to this table, this table as a result is close to me. Between Allah and His worshipper, it's a different thing. Between Allah and His worshipper, it can be from one side. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is close to all of His creations, to the believer and the disbeliever. As He says in the Quran, وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. And we are closer to Him than the jugular vein. But from the other side, this worshipper can be away and far from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A mu'min, because of his deeds, because of his obedience, he's close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the kafir, because of his disobedience, because of his bad deeds and bad actions, that doesn't satisfy Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's far. Even a mu'min, when he commits sins, he's taking a step back from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is closer to him than the jugular vein. So if the closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not balanced from both sides, is not the same amount, it's because it's the abd to be blamed. It's the worshipper's mistake. When we say Allah huwa al-wali, Allah is the close one, or Allah is the ally, Allah waliyyu alladhina amanu, there are representatives of this name, like the prophets, like the awliya, like the imams. But me as a person, I can be a representative of that name. I can be a wali somehow, at least to be a wali of my limbs, of my organs, of my eyes, of my ears, and of my tongue. When I want to say a word, I imprison my tongue in my mouth before I say the word and think about it. لسانك حصانك إن صنته صانك. If you protect your tongue will protect you. But if I speak anything, anywhere, in any place, and in any time, I would be more subject to fall, to make a mistake, or to insult someone, or to say something that's a waste of time. So, and I have to be wali over my eyes, to lower my gaze. I have to be wali over my ears in order to stop listening to music, or stop listening to ghiba, to backbiting, or to listen only to what satisfies Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I have to be the master, the wali of myself, the wali of my limbs. If a person cannot hold himself while he's angry, during anger, then he is the slave of an anger. There was a king he used to be proud of what he had, the kingdom and the money and the wealth. And one of his people, he was a very pious person who was able to control himself, to control his lust, to control his anger. So the king was walking in the streets in his convoy, and the man was looking at him and smiling. He stopped and he said, "What's wrong with you? You're staring at me and smiling." He said, "Do you know that I am richer than you? I am a king and you are a slave." Then the king got angry. He couldn't hold his anger. He said, "How come you say that you are a king and I'm a slave? Look at me. I have this wealth. I have this palace. I have this and that." He said, "Now you became the slave of my slave." He got angry more. He said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "I was able to control my anger, to make this anger is my slave, and to be able to control this dunya, that I don't let this dunya own me, while you are proud of worldly things." So you became a slave and I became a king. And once you got angry, you weren't able to control your anger. So you became the slave of your anger, and anger is my slave. So you are the slave of my slave. A person, if he can't be able to be wali of his actions and wali of his limbs, this person is a slave, is not a free man. So since this closeness starts from since wilaya results from closeness, it has to start from the worshipper, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I mentioned, is close to everyone. So we have to seek closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through loyalty in worship, through good deeds, through performing our duty towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like prayers, and especially sujood, because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about sujood in Surah Al-Alaq, He says waqtarib, and become closer and seek. Once you do sujood, you are closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because of our sins, and this being far from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the rust will be formed over our heart. And we need something that breaks this rust. Because of these sins, because of these sins, it's hard to be able to supplicate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and this supplication to be responded. So we need something that takes us faster to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Allah says in the Quran, وَابْتَغُوا إِلَيْهِ الْوَسِيلَةِ, and seek the means to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the closest means to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Muhammadin wa Ali Muhammad. As we recite in Salaat-ul-Juma, Allahumma inni law wajadtu shufa'a aqraba ilayka min Muhammadin wa ahli baytihi laja'altuhum shufa'a. If I found intercessors who are closer to you than Muhammad and his household, I would have made them my intercessors. So, I mentioned before that the example of the light is one, which is the wilayatullah, the divine wilaya. The divine wilaya. And now we have wilayat Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. This still is considered the same example, one example of the light, because it's an extension of wilayatullah. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them that status, that their wilaya is from His wilaya. And they are a light from His light, from the light of Allah. And they are the representatives of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth. So, wilayatullah means wilayat Ahl al-Bayt, means wilayat Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. So this wilayah has to be only for Ahlul Bayt, which means only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I make this wilayah with something else, with someone else in this dunya, whether with my work, I love my work and I'm addicted to my work more than Ahlul Bayt and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I do wilayah for a certain scholar, I don't know who, and I entered religion because of him and that's it. I don't care whether people insult Ahlul Bayt, but I do care when they insult this scholar or this marja. This is wrong. This is not the right wilayah. If I do this wilayah and this connection with someone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Ahlul Bayt, this is considered taking someone else as a wali. ذلك بأن الله هو الحق وأن ما يدعون من دونه هو الباطل. So on the day of judgment, the real wilayah will be revealed. And when I say wilayat Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, this is not complete unless I do bara'ah and disassociate from the enemies. Sayyid Abdullah Shubbar mentions in his book Sharh al-Ziyara al-Jami'ah, the explanation of Ziyaratul-Jami'ah al-Kabira. He said that believing in them cannot be complete unless we disassociate ourselves from their enemies. And their love doesn't gather in one heart with the love of their enemies. So the one who loves someone, he would hate or he would disassociate himself from his enemies. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ. Whoever disbelieves in the taghut and believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's the person الذي يستمسك بالعروة الوثقى. So this bara'ah, this disassociating ourselves from the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, that helps us achieve the closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we recite in Ziyarat Ashura, إني أتقرب, I seek closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to His Prophet and to Amir al-Mu'mineen and to Fatima and to Al-Hassan and to Al-Hussein with your wilayah, and with disassociating myself from those who fought you and who stood against you in a war. Some people might try to clear the name of certain individuals that fought Amir al-Mu'mineen just for the sake of the unity. And this kind of thing, this kind of behavior, this is an example of seeking closeness to someone other than Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim. Like some have the opinion of those who pretended to be companions of Rasulullah and fought later against Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim. Because they fought against Amir al-Mu'mineen just because of politics, just because of a throne, they think because of they had only that reason, this doesn't make them disbelievers. This doesn't make them Nasibis. They are still called Muslims. But Ahlul Bayt, they say otherwise. For example, we have a narration that speaks about the leaders of disbelievers. The leaders, the heads of disbelieving. وَإِن نَكَثُوا أَيْمَانَهُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ عَهْدِهِمْ وَطَعَنُوا فِي دِينِكُمْ فَقَاتِلُوا أَئِمَّةَ الْكُفْرِ إِنَّهُمْ لَا أَيْمَانَ لَهُمْ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَنْتَهُونَ. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, he's speaking about people who visited him from the people of Basra, and they asked him about Talha and Zubayr, these two brothers who fought Amir al-Mu'mineen. And Zubayr, as we know, he used to be a companion of Rasulullah and he used to defend Rasulullah, and he's one of the people who attended the funeral of Sayyidah Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, and then later he fought against Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salam. He said, these people from al-Basra visited me and asked me about Talha and Zubayr. Then Imam al-Sadiq said, they were from the leaders of disbelievers, the heads of disbelieving, because Ali alayhi salam in the battle of Jamal, when he was preparing for battle, he said, I want to go out and speak to them and show them the proof. And he said, did I do something that's wrong? Was I unjust with you? Did I do the hudud with some of you and I left some of the others? And then they kept saying no, no, no. Then Imam Ali alayhi salam looked at someone beside him about this verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, fight the heads of disbelieving or the leaders of disbelievers, he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this verse came about these people because no one of the people before did that. So this verse came about these people who fought against Imam Ali alayhi salam, which makes them the heads of disbelieving and the leaders of disbelievers. More than that, furthermore, we have about the Nasibis. What is the definition of a Nasibi? So, Ali ibn Muhammad alayhi salam, he says that Muhammad ibn Ali ibn Isa messaged the Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. He said, this Nasibi, what defines a Nasibi? Is it enough that this person considers Jibt and Taghut are more superior to Amir al-Mu'mineen, and they have the priority over him to be the successors of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Is that enough for them to be considered Nasibi or not? Then the Imam gave him the message back with an answer. He says, whoever believes that, he is a Nasibi. So it is important to think twice before trying to clear the name of those who fight against Ahlul Bayt. And this is not only physical fight. I can be a person who fights against Ahlul Bayt when I refuse their knowledge, when I insist on the sin, when I refuse to listen to their words, and do things that are against their teachings, and not to be a proper waiter of Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman, Ajjal Allah Ta'ala Farjahu Sharif. So there are standards that distinguishes between right and wrong, which is the Mawla. Who am I seeking closeness to? If the Mawla is Allah and the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt, then the Wilaya is correct. And all of the results are Haqq. إنما وليكم الله ورسوله والذين آمنوا الذين يقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة وهم راكعون. The verse that speaks about the giving of the ring of Amir al-Mu'mineen. If the Mawla is other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this wilaya is void, and all of its branches are void. Then the Mawla is either Allah or the hellfire. ذلك بأن الله لمولى الذين آمنوا وأن الكافرين لا مولى لهم مأواكم النار هي مولاكم. So your destiny is hellfire, and it is your Mawla. This is in the Quran. So the Mawla of some people would be the hellfire. Imam al-Rida alayhi salam, when he speaks to Ibn Shabib, he says, إن سرك أن تكون معنا في الدرجات العلى. If it would make you happy to be with us in the highest of statuses in the heavens, فاحزن لحزننا. Be sad when we are sad, and be happy when we are happy. وعليك بولايتنا. And you have to have our wilaya. Because if a man, فلو أن رجلا تولى حجرا, if a person chooses the wilaya of a rock, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will put him with that rock the day of judgment. So the signs of muwali to Ahlul Bayt is weeping over Ahlul Bayt, over Abi Abdullah al-Husayn. So it is important to be precise when we perform this the deeds in order to seek closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to choose the divine wilaya and the wilayat of Ahlul Bayt salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhim. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us that wilaya and the tawfiq to seek that wilaya properly. إنه سميع مجيب. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the appearance of Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman, and to grant us the ability to be of his supporters. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى علي أمير المؤمنين وعلى الصديقة الطاهرة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين وعلى سبطي الرحمة وإمامي الهدى الحسن والحسين سيدي شباب أهل الجنة وعلى أئمة المسلمين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي وعلى الحسن والحسين والأئمة المعصومين من ولد الحسين علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الهادي المهدي حججك على عبادك وأمنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.